Today we'll be crocheting a little mini pumpkin. To make a mini pumpkin, we're going to need some yarn. I will be using Big Twist acrylic, and it is a size 4 weight, if you will. That'll be my yarn choice. Then you will need a hook that corresponds with your yarn. I am using a 3.5. This is my favorite hook, so I use it for everything. Then you will need some type of scissors and a darning needle, and of course some polyfill stuffing. We'll also need some type of stitch marker. Now you can use a fancy one or just a scrap of yarn like I am. So how we're going to start is we're going to be making a sphere or a circle. So to do that, we need to do a magic ring. There's multiple ways to do a magic ring. This is how I like to do it. I loop it around my hook, do a little twist, 2 single crochets. Then there is a hole. Then I will put 6 in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now to form it into a circle, see how this is poking out? We're going to let that come on out of the circle. I'm going to let go. I'm going to let my hook hold my little spot here. Then we're just going to pull carefully, and it closes the circle. Then we're going to start our rounds. So with this pattern, we go in rounds. The first round we'll be putting 2 single crochets in each hole, totaling 12. So we go in the first one with 2, 1, 2, 2 in the second, 3, 4, 2 in the third, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12. Now's a good time to use the stitch marker if you don't feel like counting the next round. And one real good way this works is that you know where you've started your round. Plus, if you mess up somewhere, you can just take out your stitching, or we call it frogging, till the stitch marker, and then just try again. So this next round will be a increase, which is 2 single crochets in 1 loop and 1 single crochet in the next, and then we repeat. So it'll be a total of 18. We go double, or 2 in 1, and then a single, double, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single. Now if you wanted to make sure that you did all the stitches correctly, you can go around and count like so. We're going to count the loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we do not count the one that's currently on the hook. So that is 18. So remember, the first row, we put, it was an increase in each stitch. this one was an increase, then 1 stitch. So the next one, you guessed it, increase 2 stitches in the whole circle. So increase 2 single crochets. Increase 2 single crochets. Increase 2 singles. Increase 2 singles. And then we'll finish the round the same way. All right, next round, we're going to take out our stitch marker, move it on up, and you guessed it, we're going to do another increasing row. So 1 increase, and then 3. 1, 2, whoops, got it a little tangled there. 1, 2, 3. Increase. 1, increase. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Increase. Always make sure you have enough yarn ready to go. And then increase. 1, 2, 3. Increase. 1, 2, 3. So when I'm crocheting, basically in my head, that's what I'm doing the whole time. Increase, 1, 2, 3. Increase, 1, 2, 3. It helps me stay on track as I go along. You will find your own way, okay? And then once again, we're going to do another round. But this time, instead of 3 single stitches, it'll be 4. So increase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Increase. And if you notice, we're kind of creating these little points wherever the increase is. So if you're crocheting and you kind of get lost, that's also a good way to notice. So if you see where the point is, that's going to be where our increase is. And if you see, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, it gets us to our next point. So once, with a lot of practice, you don't have to actually count them, because you can notice where those little points are. So increase, increase being 2 single crochets in 1 loop, and then 4 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Increase. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 2 more, it looks like. 2 more repeats. Okay, we've finished. So now what you can do is, if you want to have a bigger pumpkin, you can just add another round, so it would, another increasing round. So it would be increase, and then you'd have 5. If you wanted to make it bigger, increase, then 6. You do want to keep track of how many times you've increased, because at the end, we're going to use that same numbering to decrease to make our sphere, circle, close in. But for this sake of the video and my mini pumpkins, I'm just going to go to 4. So then we're going to take out our stitch marker. I'm going to put it in again. And now I'm going to do 4 rounds. So 4 times all the way around of just singles. We're not increasing it. This is going to give our pumpkin its height. So I'm just going to go around for 4 times. All right, so with a little movie magic, we have our 4 rows. So our stitch marker is here. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 single rows. Remember, again, if you chose to make yours increase longer, for instance, if you had 5, an increase, and then 5 single stitch round, then you would want to add 1 or 2 more rows. Otherwise, you get this very large flat pumpkin, a very wide flat one. So again, since we've increased, now it's time to decrease. And for decreasing, instead of putting the opposite, obviously, instead of putting 2 in one, we're going to take 2 stitches and make it into 1. So we're going to enter our hook, grab the yarn, enter the hook again into the next one, grab the yarn, and pull through. Okay, and since we had 4 increasing rows, we're going to do 4 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, decrease, push it through, loop it into the next one, bring it through, and there's your decrease. And then 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing again. Decrease, 4. Decrease, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now for the next one, we're going to do a decreasing row for 3. So decrease, and then 3 singles. 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 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 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, it's starting to form kind of a cone circle, but don't worry about that. Okay, since we did a decrease 3 round, now we're going to do a decrease 2, because we're working our way back down. So decrease, 1, 2, decrease. Sometimes I like to squish mine. If you squish it, then you can kind of see your stitches a little better. 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2. Open it up, squish it this way, decrease, 1, 2. And then I'll just finish this round. Okay, next one, you guessed it, decrease 1, decrease 1. So insert, loop it through for the decrease, and 1, decrease. This is where it gets a little harder to fit the hook in there. 1, decrease, 1, decrease, 1, decrease, 1, decrease, and last one. Okay, now is the time we are going to stuff it. So I'm going to take out my stitch marker. I'm going to take my hook out, and while taking my hook out, I'm going to make a little loop and actually put my finger in there so I won't lose it. Then we're going to open this up. It is kind of a small hole, but do not worry, the stuffing will fit. When stuffing, my suggestion is that the less you put in, the more squishy and easier it will be to pull the string through to make the little bumps on the pumpkin. So the less you use, the better for that. On the flip side, the more stuffing you use, the harder your pumpkin will be, and it'll be a little bit harder to pull the yarn through to make the bumps. So depending what you want to do, this, I put in a little bit, it's very, very squishy. I like to make sure, if you look in here, if I took my finger, there's still a lot of room. So I like to have it where it's filled out, but not like super duper full. Okay. And then I just wiggle my finger in there like that. Make sure it's flush. And see, it's holding its shape, but it's still very squishy. Okay, now we're going to do 6 decreases to close this circle a lot more. In the end, this part is going to be the bottom of our pumpkin. So I'm just going to count them out. I don't need a stitch marker, but if you feel like you need to put one in, go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now you can see there is a hole. This is the hole we're going to use to pull our yarn through to make the little bumps on the pumpkin. So for this, to measure how much you need, we're actually going to use our arm. So this is a little pumpkin, but it's better to have more yarn than you might need. So what I like to do is I just take it, I'm going to put it sort of at my arm, and then just put my arm out like that. So this is about how much? Okay, and then I'll cut it. It's going to be too much, but that's okay, because it is a lot easier to cut it than it would be to try to add more later. Okay, so we have our circle, our little pumpkin ball here, and our long, long string. First, we're going to tie off this little loop, which easily done. We're just going to take the long yarn that we cut and put it through the hole and pull. Now we know it's not going to go anywhere. Now we're going to take the other end of that and thread it through our little darning needle. Maybe pull it about halfway down. Okay, and that hole that we left for our stuffing, we're going to poke the needle through. I'm going to flip it over, and in the very middle you can see this little hole here where we started. This was our original 6 stitches. So we're going to just poke our needle through that and pull. Now, a little tip I've found here is that I like to squeeze it. We're going to make it a little flat pumpkin and pull. Now, you can see all these rows that we've made. These are a nice guideline that I like to start with. So I will just wrap it around one of them, slowly flip it over, and this hole, we're going to put it right back through. Now, when making your little pumpkin bumps, I like to keep in mind, remember poking through, and it's going to go out the top. I like to keep in mind of nature. Nature does not do things in even numbers. So I like to make sure mine are odd. My pumpkins usually have 5 bumps, but when it's your pumpkin, you are more than welcome to do whatever you'd like with yours. So we're going to pull it. Now I kind of do this little motion with my thumb to really get those grooves in there. Like so. Now, to make it 5 compartments to make it 5 bumps, instead of going straight across, I'm going to go at a little angle. So I know that this one's going to have 1 more yarn through it, and then this side will have 2 more. So if I put it like this and then follow it around the end, put my needle through and out the top again and pull. And that same little motion with my thumb, that little sliding action here. I just roll it up, and while I'm doing that, I pull the yarn. So now I have these 2 sections. So now I'm going to go across and divide this one into kind of like a third. Again, you can make yours however you would like. Like that. Now we're going to do one in the middle of this guy. Out the top. Oop, my yarn's stuck. There we go. Again, roll it with the thumb and pull. And then one last section here. Poke it through. Whoops. I'm going to make sure it's in the middle. And then roll it again. Now, to make sure that our little pumpkin side divots here do not get unraveled, I'm just going to poke my needle through. Poke it through, I said. And it's going to come out somewhere. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to gently pull. This is like weaving in the end. Then you can see that there's a little grooves here. So I'm just going to slide the needle in next to it. Let it come out somewhere else. And I'm not going to pull too hard, because when you pull too hard, then you get a little dimple. See the little dimple? I mean, unless you like it. But I prefer not to have the dimple. So I'm just going to insert, poke it through, and then just pull a little bit like that. And if you do that 2 or 3 times, you will make sure that the string won't come out. Okay, and then to clip it, we're just going to cut it off like so. For the stem, I'm going to be using this little ball of leftover brown yarn. You can choose whatever you'd like. Just make sure that it is the same size or weight as the yarn of your pumpkin. So to know which side is up, see, if we look inside, we can tell that this is where we strung the yarn through. So this is going to be the top. I'm going to place my yarn. This is for, I guess, less sewing. Place my yarn on top of my pumpkin. I'm going to insert my hook under one of the little crevices we made for the pumpkin bumps. I'm going to yarn it under here. Then I'm going to make 8 single crochets. 8 single crochets to make a chain. You can make it yours as long as you want. If you want a nice long vine for it, go for it. But I'm just going to do 8 because I like them a little small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now our pattern down the middle, to give it a little twist, is going to be 1 single and 1 increase. So single, increase, single till we're done. So skipping the first loop here, we're going to do it in the second chain from the hook, a single, and then a double, or an increase. I like to call them doubles, but some people might get confused of a double crochet, which is what we're not doing. So increase. It's getting a little tricky to hold, but I believe in you. Single, increase, and end on a single. Okay, then we're going to have a little bit to use for sewing it in. Again, we have the loop, just like when we finished our pumpkin. We're going to pull this yarn through it so it's not going to go anywhere. Make a little knot, like so. I'm going to thread it through the needle. Now, wherever I added this, let's just move that little tail out of the way for the time being. I'm going to go across the pumpkin. So I'm going to choose this little stitch over here. Pull it through. Then on the inside, I'm going to poke it through. We're going to slide it. Now I'm going to do one kind of in the middle. I'm going to put the yarn in because it's attached on either side. Now we kind of want it in the middle. So I'm going to poke it into the yarn. The middle part is the more tricky because all the stitches are very tight together. But if you can loop it through something, all right, and poke it through, pull, then we're going to find the somewhere in the middle here just to make sure it gets real tacked down, and then poke it through and let it come out somewhere. And there you go. Now we got to get this little guy in. And same thing, my tail might be too short. So let me poke it first. Then insert it. Then have it come out. And we will just trim those. When you're trimming something that's the same color, I like to put my scissors here and just pull slightly because then it will retract back into the yarn. So once again, kind of pull slightly, cut it, and then it just goes right into the yarn. You don't have to worry about it. And there you have it. You have yourself a mini little pumpkin.